everyone, this is Lomi, and today's project is fun because it's my first time painting this doll I spent ages sculpting myself. So this is Tahl, and this is actually a B-grade cast that had a chip at the top where the pour tab broke instead of cutting cleanly, and he had a bubble beside one eye that I repaired using UV resin. Aside from that making the edges of his left eye a little rough, he was in really good condition. A wig will cover the chip at the top, and I figured a face-up would hide the imperfection of the eye, so I decided to keep him as one of my personal dolls for this character. Most of my casts have turned out a lot better than this, but I hate to waste anything that has only minor problems. It's been a long time since I was able to share updates regarding this sculpt, so while I'm doing the line work using gouache paint, I'll start with a little backstory. Back in 2021, I had finished this original sculpt and signed a contract for casting to put the doll head into production. But things went wrong, and the caster I signed with ultimately ended up closing. After that, I spent weeks contacting other casting companies, mostly in Asia, trying to find a replacement caster. It ended up being way harder than I expected. Most companies either weren't willing to cast just a head, or the minimum number I would have to order was more heads than I thought I could sell. Or they weren't accepting new jobs, or they just plain never replied to me no matter how many times I tried to contact them for a quote. It became really frustrating really fast, and at some point I thought, I've done a lot of work on dolls by now. I even did casting for Rune's head on my own. The only thing preventing me from being able to do high quality casting on my own was that I didn't have a pressure pot. A big pot for casting big dolls was about $350, where the most affordable company that had replied to me would have cost almost $2,000 to get started. I sincerely doubted I'd have as much interest in this doll as their minimum order quantity, so I didn't think a pre-order was a good idea, because I'd just have to cancel if I couldn't fill the whole thing, since I didn't have enough money to devote to this project to pay it all up front. When comparing those two amounts, it became clear pretty early on that the best use of my time and finances would be to just start my own casting ventures and learn to produce quality casts on my own at home. This was the second doll I pulled out of the mold after the blank white cast used to clean it of dust and excess silicone. I felt like that was a huge triumph, especially since this is a tan resin, and tans are notoriously difficult to cast well. So I figured that if I was going to offer this doll for sale, I'd just learn to do everything myself. It works well for me because I'm a really hands-on creator. I really like being able to be involved in every step of production, and this meant that I'd be able to produce as many or as few dolls as I wanted. I could make single casts just for myself, or a cast for me and one for a single other person who might want one, or as many as 100 if I ultimately sculpted something that became popular. But you may have noticed that this doll that was originally supposed to be available for pre-order in August of 2021 has still not been made available. Part of that has been that materials have proven unexpectedly difficult to get, and I'm also trying not to overwork while I get my health back in order. So with the resins and silicone I like to use often back-ordered, and me still figuring out dye ratios and things while trying to reach a point where I'm well enough to work at a steady pace, I eventually realized that opening any kind of pre-order was probably extremely unwise. Even if the interest in the doll was limited, I'd feel terrible if there were people waiting for me to do casting and I wasn't well enough to get it done. So I had to spend some time thinking about how I would handle producing my dolls, because Tahl isn't the last sculpt I'm going to make. What I ultimately decided was that the best thing for me to do was sell ready-made heads and just cast at my own pace. If I cast one head in each of the 3 colors I intend to offer, that would let me have a stock that I could keep available all the time, so there would never be any kind of urgency. If someone happened to order one of those heads, I could just cast one to replace it at my convenience, and then put the listing for that color back up. Offering dolls in that fashion would also enable me to sell experimental colors, and also would let me offer slightly imperfect casts like this one here at a discounted rate, making it more accessible for more people. How I'm going to handle the selling of the dolls, though, I haven't determined just yet. I've considered using an Etsy shop since it would make calculating shipping and managing sales tax easy and hands-off for me, and people would be able to see at a glance what colors and one-of-a-kind dolls I have available at any given moment. But Etsy's fees are also really high, so it would affect how much I would have to charge for each piece. Listing on Instagram is a popular option for dolls and would make it really easy to showcase one-of-a-kind casts or slightly imperfect casts with specific issues, but it's hard to be seen there, and not everyone has an Instagram account, so how would they contact me? On top of that, it would put the shipping calculation and tax management back on me, which isn't awful in low quantities, but does create more work. Then I thought maybe I could set up a storefront on my website, but that would mean reworking my site's infrastructure, so it's a lot of extra work there too. It's a hard decision to make, especially when I'm trying to keep my workload lower so I can focus more on quality production. Every day is getting me closer to having things ready though, and after my long back-ordered resin finally comes in, I think I'll have the first batch of dolls ready to offer, and I'm kind of glad to have made a decision that will let me keep any doll I make in production for as long as I want, instead of stressing everyone out with limited time pre-orders. Now that I have a head painted, I can make a wig and take some photos to properly showcase the sculpt and what makes him special, so I'll probably be doing that sometime this summer. I'm looking forward to sharing that, and I hope you'll look forward to seeing it too. That's all for today though. Thanks for watching. Bye.